Hey everybody, it's Thursday. What a heck of a show. I did some J trades. I made 3 trades last night ahead of the inflation print today. They're all up, up, up. I'm going to explain the bets I'm making, and my portfolio is almost back to even again. This is not investment advice, but you can fade my trades, or you can follow my trades, or you can ignore my trades as you wish at jtrading.com.
Yeah, we'll go through them. It's a lot of fun. And then, God help us, Sam Bankman-Fried cannot stop pleading his case. He just launched a Substack. I think we could probably take the credit, though. We've been helping to sort of like revitalize Substack, talk about the value of it. Clearly, he must have been reading that and thought, this is the way that I can use this publishing platform to try to get out of the charges against me.
And we have the best hot take from our boy, Om Malik, at Om on Twitter. He basically unpacks in 140 characters why SBF has launched a Substack. And I give my plan. I do a little content brainstorming here, workshop of what 3 things Sam Bankman-Fried can add to his Substack that'll help get him a reduced sentence. And it's Thursday, so we know what that means, Molly.
Yes! Another week of This Week in Streaming, just in time for the real kickoff of award season, of course, with the Golden Globes happening. And then we're going to talk about this New Yorker piece about Netflix's approach to content. We'll have just a mini debate on whether they're throwing money into the Sarlacc pit or whether they're going to conquer the world.
It's going to be a great show.
Stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by Embroker. The Embroker Startup Insurance Program helps startups secure the most important types of insurance at a lower cost and with less hassle. Save up to 20% off traditional insurance today at Embroker.com/twits. Lemon.io. Hire pre-vetted remote developers. Get 15% off your first 4 weeks of developer time at Lemon.io/twist. And Fitbod. Tired of doing the same workouts at the gym? Fitbod will build you personalized workouts that help you progress with every set. Get 25% off your subscription or try out the app for free when you sign up now at fitbod.me/twist.
All right, everybody, welcome to Thursday. We'll have Lon on in a moment to talk about streaming and award season and Netflix and their change in strategy. But I guess first up, I made some J trades last night.
I was going to say, first up, somebody stayed up a little too late. I like to buy stuff on Instagram. This guy likes to drop many, many, many thousands of dollars on the stock market. What?
Well, I still believe that learning the stock market is my, during the recession is my year-long passion, or one of them. Here we talk about it here on the show. And if you go to jtrading.com, which should work for most browsers, my tech team's having a little bit of a hard problem, but if you just type in JTrading, you should find the Coda page we built. And I don't know where I'm at, but it looks like during this time, the S&P is basically even and I'm down 6%. So I am trailing the market. It was down like 20% at the peak of this. I did say.
I think you traded last night, right? Because then today, new inflation data came out that is better than expected. And there's literally a piece in the Wall Street Journal. Like, journalism means never having to say you're sorry. The Wall Street Journal is like, it looks like maybe inflation was transitory after all. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You actually wrote that? Oh, my Lord. And also,
a year is not transitory, but okay.
Well, I don't think they're actually, I don't think there's a technical, this is what I was saying when they first started saying transitory. Everything is transitory. What does that word even mean?
Time is transitory.
It will be this way for a while, and then it will not be that way. No.
Yeah.
It's transitory. Sorry about the swears.
Well, and then also transitory would mean you don't have to take significant action to fight it.
That's the other crazy thing. Right. And I'm like, well, I don't think you can say, oh, it was transitory after all, when actually the Fed came and like broke the back of the economy to try to
rate hikes in the history of their actions, right? Like, I think
what
this
even
is
happens.
Yeah. So
but anyway, as a result, the stock market is booming.
Well,
so if you made your trades before you went to bed last night, then you're having a little bump today.
I did, because Robinhood lets you trade overnight. But I mean, basically the concept here is this is an investment advice. I'm trying to find companies that I think could be 5 times larger in 10 years. I'm trying to learn the dynamics of public markets to inform myself. I'm doing this with a small amount of money relative to my overall net worth. So it's like basically like $1 million. Just I'm trading here. And
so what do you buy?
Well, I've been thinking about our conversations a lot and which companies I think are poised for greatness over a decade. Right. So everything I'm doing is looking at like a decade-long approach to this. Now, sometimes That means that in the short term, you could have ups and downs here. But I bought some more Apple. Now, why did I buy Apple? It is shocking how many shares they're buying back, how much cash they throw off. And I just think as we get closer to this AR deployment, the buzz I'm hearing is that they have something very special. So I think the developer community rallies around a product from Apple in a way different than they're going to rally around an untrusted partner like Zuckerberg. Now, this is a little bit complex as a trade. I believe the problem with Zuckerberg's bet on Meta is a problem with the lack of trust people have for Zuckerberg. Now, this seems crazy.
Not in the slightest.
Not to you, because you've been covering the company so long. So if you double click on the issue, the platform is only going to do as well as the apps that are built for it. Now, when I open up my Oculus every Thanksgiving, somebody brings a new one. One of my brother-in-law or whoever will have a new one. I put it on. I played a racquetball game. The interface is still really clunky. I did the lightsaber game, Saber, whatever, the year before. Beat Saber. And I'm always amazed at the technology. I played a Star Wars game. And this time around, I was like, you know what? My motion sickness didn't kick in until maybe the 30th minute inside the Star Wars game, which was massive progress because it usually would be in the first 3 minutes. So I'm like, okay, the fidelity is getting better. So what will define the winner is who makes the best apps. And, I start looking at my Apple Watch, which I resisted for 7 versions, and then I got it. And now I use on a very regular basis a number of apps here. I will use Slopes. I will use the Tonal app. I will use the Starbucks app. Looking at my apps here, I will use iMessage, Peloton's app for my heart rate, and Overcast for podcasts, listening, my alarm, and I answer the phone and I set and mapping directions. And I would say 4 or 5 years ago, it was 0 because I was on Fitbit. So just watching that progression, I hated the watch. I don't wear jewelry. I don't own any jewelry. I don't wear watches. I'm not a watch person. But this has become like when I forget my watch, it's not quite as bad as forgetting my phone, but they kind of got me.
Yeah.
I think the apps that are going to come out for the AR glasses out of the gate are going to be pretty darn good. And I think the lag time between the watch and the VR will be a little bit faster. So anyway, that's my thesis. I just think the apps are going to be great.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to pull people in. And I think they're going to demolish Facebook, which I'm a shareholder in and happens to be my best trade. But my best trade there is because I think Zuckerberg is cutting staff, right? And I didn't buy more Facebook because it had such a huge run up. I think I'm good with my bet. Listen, I've been dealing with business insurance for 3 decades. I kid you not. Switching providers has always been a nightmare. Too expensive, takes too much time, and often doesn't guarantee you're going to get any better coverage. But now you can make switching radically simple with Embroker. Embroker is the perfect destination for industry-tailored commercial insurance. It's business insurance specifically for startups. Yes, you're listening to This Week in Startups. That's why they're here. That's why we're here. Embroker's single application will help your startup get 4 quotes for 4 lines of coverage in but 15 minutes. They match you with expert brokers for unmatched service that goes well beyond your policy. And listen, Embroker is so amazing. I use it. Again, it's just like a testimonial here. I use it. I love it. My team loves it. Makes life easy. Try Embroker today with the code TWIST and you get 10% off their startup package. Embroker.com/twist. Embroker, EMBROKER.com/twist. And use that promo code TWIST for 10% off. We love the product. Thanks for supporting us for so many years here at This Week in Startups.
All right. So you bought some Apple. Anything else?
I bought Amazon. And this is going to be a cynical trade. I bought another 500 shares of Amazon, 50 dimes worth, $95 a share. Why did I buy Amazon? Because they're making big cuts. They're laying people off.
Yep. Murder trade.
And it's a murder trade. The more people they lay off, the more shares I want to buy. Because I think it's a bloated company that could be massively more efficient. And I think they overspent. And I think they could have earnings headwinds on the cloud computing business. They could have earning headwinds, in other parts of the business. But if you right size the company and you get rid of the quote unquote surplus elites, you know, we talked about this, I think yesterday, like you lay off the last 10,000 people, or I think they're up to 18,000 people, and you start selling some factories, like this is expensive. These are expensive people. This is going to go right to the bottom line. I think the trade here is, you know, Amazon's fourth pillar of healthcare, which I predicted on, I think All In is one of my predictions that, you know, I think that could be a really good one. They buy Peloton, they buy Whoop, they buy just some other companies, Pronovo, whatever, you know, companies they could buy in healthcare. They wouldn't hit Lina Khan. Lina Khan would have a hard time betting. It would be unpopular to stop Amazon from providing healthcare to people. It's another little rub, right? Like it's one thing to stop Zuckerberg from buying a social app, or to stop Amazon from, you know, doing third-party seller stuff, or Apple from doing third-party app stores. But to stop like the lowering the cost of healthcare or education would be highly unpopular.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so I think
I wonder what
my Amazon trade.
I mean, email us, producers at thisweekinstartups.com. I wonder what the trust, because for a while there, it was like Amazon was among the most trusted companies in America. I wonder if that's still true. Like, I wonder what people think about the idea of Amazon being your healthcare provider. Fundamental, like just as a visceral kind of, you know, privacy and trust feeling. Because I agree that anybody who really was like, you know, I mean, people's response when they hear about the Mark Cuban cost plus drug thing or whatever is just like, yes, give it to me. But then I think about the people in my life who are like, I hate Amazon and they're evil and I don't want to shop from them. And I mean, there's not very many people in my life, but they do exist. No, it's like my weird red pill brother.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's different. Yeah. I mean, I just think like there's going to be vocal haters. There's going to be vocal haters of every corporation. There's anti-corporate people, and there's a lack of trust.
That's what I mean about like a well-known corporation trying to provide you anything. It's like, what? Anyway, email us. I have no idea. I'm just curious, right? Like I know people on both sides.
I think it will have to do with how delightful and easy the product is. What do people want to save? Time and money. People want to save time and money. What does Amazon do? It saves you time. It saves you money. When you save people time and you save them money, or you make them laugh and entertain them, distract them, in other words, those three things, oh my Lord, you got a winning combination.
Yep.
You know, I don't think like these things are going to entertain people necessarily, but they're going to save them time and money.
It's so funny because that's what your three trades are. Like you were like delightful product, save time and money, and then your third trade, entertain them, Disney. Exactly.
And you know, it's Disney is just another great trade, I think, right now, because I don't know if you saw Iger increased the number of $104 days at the park. I'm making the trade based on that. It's $190 per ticket to Disneyland, I think, on the peak days.
So insane.
What matters is the number of non-peak days that they offer. This shows you the greed factor and how much they love their customers, as much as like the streaming services and what they pick for it. When I saw the number of $104 days, I thought to myself, austerity measures, right? Cut your own tree down, make your own cold brew. I am making a $50,000 trade today on Disney. You know what I did when I saw the $104 thing is I said, I want to take my girls to Disneyland and I want to go on the $104 day.
Totally.
It makes no difference to me if I bring 5 people. If I spend $60, it's $300. Obviously, that's not going to be a game changer for me. But I'm going on the $104 day for a reason. I care about austerity. I grew up poor. It's just the way I think. I want to go on the $104 day. Just like when I ski, I want to ski the 2 hours in the afternoon on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, not on the weekends. And I buy the Epic Pass. Cost me $800 because I got the global one this year. I got 14 days in. I literally have 100 and some odd runs on the mountain. Maybe I'll get a couple more next week. It's $8 per run right now. Last year I got down to like $1 per run.
Yeah.
Or maybe $1.25. You know, this is how people think.
Yeah.
This is how people should think, is about value. When Disney speaks value, okay, now you can get $7 with a couple of commercials. Now you're speaking my language. Austerity and value is the theme of 2023. That's my 3 trades. Amazon,
I think we got
Disney.
1 minute for one last theme of 2023, which is, God help us, Sam Bankman-Fried will not go away. Do we want to talk about this or do you have to scamper?
No, I'll talk about it really quick.
We'll give it like 3 minutes, which is all it freaking deserves.
He launched a Substack.
Launched a freaking Substack, this kid. A pre-mortem. He is literally calling it the FTX pre-mortem review and is allowing people to subscribe for as much as $150 a year.
Let's go.
Throughout the article, he makes the claim that FTX and Alameda Research were both legitimately and independently profitable businesses in 2021, each making billions. He cited 3 things that caused the implosion of FTX, and they were all bleep, bloop, 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 blah, 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 blah. Like, what is he doing? And I think, Malik, you put this tweet in our group chat, had the best take on why he is doing the Substack, where he's trying to defend all of this and, kind of trick us all again with his chaff out the back of the airplane. And tweeted, this a-hole's trying to pollute the jury pool everywhere and hoping for a series of mistrials. Helps to have legal eagles for parents to devise devious strategies. FFS.
For frick's sake. Sorry, I cursed, guys. For frick's
sake.
I think he's right. I think Malik.
That's a clever take.
At one of my favorite humans on the planet.
Best.
Journalist, we came up together, and just a great human being. Nails it. This is a way for him to muddy the waters. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Holmes should have started a TikTok. She would have gotten
it's true.
Can you imagine Elizabeth Holmes if she was like, look, what's the difference between us pursuing this and Zuckerberg pursuing VR? She could have literally taken that path and said, VR doesn't work. AR doesn't work. They've only got a couple million people. They've burned tens of billions. We only burned 1 billion.
Right.
We were trying to do the right thing here. Technology takes time. And look, these other 3 people now are making blood testing technology that draws less blood. And Apple's working on a watch that's going to try to get your glucose level or whatever, She should start a TikTok from prison. Somebody get Elizabeth Holmes a TikTok in prison.
Because the thing is, like, you literally said it yesterday. It's all about creating some doubt in the minds of a jury.
Yes. And all you need is one.
All you need is one to be like, well, they thought they were doing the right thing and they just didn't know. And she's so young and cute. And there are a million parallels to people making wild promises that are occasionally getting people killed. And she could have done. I 100% agree with them, which is why I'm not even going to bother to go through the crap that he is spouting on the Substack, because it doesn't matter. That's not the point.
All right, listen. Here's what Sam Bankman-Fried needs to do to get off. He needs to go to therapy and in his Substack 1 day a week, talk about his journey in therapy and being in a 12-step program, realizing that he was over-medicating himself and making amends. And he should start practicing Buddhism and meditate and post his meditation statistics to his Substack. So the Substack, I'm just doing a little creative
content. I know, I just want you to cut this part because he's going to do it and it's going to work.
Just throw in a little meditation.
Yeah.
Throw in a little Judaism plus Buddhism. He's thinking philosophically. And then think a little bit about your life's purpose. And if he goes a little self-help guru towards the end of a year of it, where he's trying to help people, and he starts helping actual people reading his Substack during the trial who say, I did Sam Bankman-Fried's combination of meditation and diet. He becomes because he's already vegan, right? A little weight loss in there, a little fitness, some sleep tracking, a meditation, quantified self, plus therapy, plus the Buddhism, Judaism, philosophy of life and our place in the world. He gets that self-help trio going. He's getting off.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee he gets off. I think he's got a path of, he's going to take 3 times to get this kid in jail. No, I'm joking. He's going to jail for 30 years. I'm still saying plus 30.
I mean,
for him right now,
I hope so. But everything you said just sent me into a despair loop. I'm so tired of that. Tired of our lack of accountability.
And he should chat GPT. He's got to chat GPT. Once he gets chat GPT, if chat GPT 4 comes out before this trial, I think he's going to be able to use chat GPT 4 to find a defense.
All right, I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. Let's turn to you writing the worst.
He's guilty. He's going to jail.
You're writing the worst TV script I've ever heard. So let's talk about real TV with Lon. Real TV and movies. What's coming up? We got Lon Harris for This Week in Streaming. Let's bring him on.
Okay, imagine this. You got an idea for a great tech startup. And you think it's going to change the world, but you got a problem. You just don't have the engineers that you need to make it come true. Why? Well, it's obvious. It's hard to find engineers. There's a lot of competition. And hey, you're trying to keep your burn rate low. You need to conserve cash. Now, imagine you had a partner who could provide you with more than 1,000 on-demand developers, right? As many as you need. And these developers were all vetted, experienced, result-oriented, and they were incredibly passionate about helping you grow your startup. And what if they charged, competitive rates, things that you could afford? Does this sound too good to be true? Well, let me introduce you to Lemon.io. Startups choose Lemon.io because they only offer hand-picked developers with 3 or more years of experience and who have strong portfolios. In fact, only 1% of candidates who apply to work with Lemon.io get in. A couple of our launch founders have worked with Lemon.io and they've had an amazing experience. And listen, I have used outsourced full-time teams for decades, whether it was way back at Weblogs Inc., Mahalo, onto Inside.com, at launch. This is the way to do it. Go to lemon.io/twist and find your perfect developer or tech team. And you can do that in 48 hours or less. And Twist listeners get 15% off for the first 4 weeks. Stop burning money. Hire developers smarter. Visit lemon.io/twist. All right, everybody, it's Thursday. That means Lon Harris is here to talk about streaming. I saw Triangle of Sadness.
Yes.
Did you see that?
I have not seen that, no. Ruben Östlund, the director. I like his he did a movie called Force Majeure a few years ago that I really liked.
This was a very interesting film.
What is this? Look at you down your whole A.O. Scott filmography rabbit hole.
He ignited your passion for art cinema.
I don't know why I have to start with the name. I just got to invoke it immediately and immediately derail us.
It's a preemptive A.O. Scott.
Yeah. The obscenely affluent.
We had the Golden Globes yesterday, and that was nice to see that, a bunch of people won, and there was joy in the world. What stuck out for you, Lon? Anything there?
Oh, from the Globes? I mean,
I like the Globes. I've been to the Globes, by the way.
I did not watch. I thought we were not back. I thought before the Globes this year, they hadn't even had them last year. They weren't even on TV. All of Hollywood was the Globes are a corrupt organization. They're not diverse. They're not forward thinking. It's basically like an old payola scheme from the 50s that has somehow just survived to the present day. And so I thought we were done with the Hollywood foreign press and the Golden Globes. They were just going to go away. But somehow they paid off the right people, the right money exchanged hands. They're back on NBC and Peacock this year. And everybody, celebrities were there. And so suddenly everybody cares again. And it's they never went away. And so that to me was the big surprising takeaway is we're all back and the Golden Globes are suddenly, the thing again. I think the most interesting takeaway in terms of the award season race is we are now really setting up a battle for Best Actress. I don't remember the last time it was a 1-to-1 head-to-head. Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once and Cate Blanchett for Tar. They've basically been splitting everything right down the middle all award season. It's very difficult to say at this point. I would say, well, it's going to be
easy
one
to say
of the
which was
two.
a better performance, Lon. Just say it.
Interesting.
I think they're both
say
wonderful.
It,
I prefer Tar. Of the two films, Tar would be the one I liked more. But I do think if you're looking at Oscars as honoring not just maybe these one performances, but a career, a person, Michelle Yeoh has been. I get why people are it would be wonderful to see her win Best Actress. She's been doing great stuff for 30 plus years at this point and went unrecognized until this year. But no, if it were me choosing, I would give it to Cate.
What about you? Molly, you've seen both, right?
I have not seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's on my weekend watching now after the emotional speech from yesterday.
I enjoyed it. I feel like the hype is a little big for me versus the movie at this point. But I
had to wait a little.
That's one of the challenges is, there could be a great film that if you go in with no expectations can be delightful to you, like Tar was. But once something gets a lot of heat, I'm sure the people after hearing us obsess over Tar or, the collective obsession, people might come in and be like, right.
I think there's another, speaking
enough
to
time
that
has
as
passed
well.
That I feel.
I'm
What did you say, Molly? I missed it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying enough time has passed with Everything
Yes.
Everywhere that I think I can probably go in with just a little bit more of a baseline.
Got it. Yes. You're not like a part of the hype cycle. Yeah.
Right.
I'm also like, I remember the previous generation of like indie weirdo art films, like when Michel Gondry and Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze and all those guys were coming out in the late 90s and early aughts. And when I was 20, that stuff blew my mind. And so I'm sure if I was 20 today, this would be that for me. And so who am I to come along and be like, ooh, it's not as good. You know, ooh, it's not the Truman Show. It's like, well, this is the Truman Show for this generation.
Yes. So that is that's a rub there. Yeah. This is the thing that always, with art is problematic, to use a term. You know, you when you're giving an award, you're like, well, this person's been looked over for so long, like Scorsese was, right? And you're like, okay, we're going to give it to him. What did he get it for? Departed, maybe?
Gangs of New York.
And you're like, well, what about Goodfellas?
Oh, no, Departed. I think it's Departed. You're right.
Yeah. It's like, well, what about Goodfellas? Like, oh, yeah, Casino. Oh, we missed that. Yeah, we missed that. So there is a little bit of the makeup, and the makeup is always challenging because once you make up for one, Molly, now you're blocking some other transcendent performance, and then you're constantly doing make goods. Yeah. And that's the challenge with these award shows.
But it's all such a like, come on.
There's just no objective answer.
Exactly.
When it comes to best actress,
I don't think there's an answer. I don't think there's one. You could make a case for a bunch of the nominees every year, and I think it's acting. It's one of those things that it's about how it lands, you know, for you. I don't think there's a one choice.
Cate Blanchett's performance is just nobody else.
I mean, this is why award shows are like top 10 lists. They're a loser. Like it's a bad idea. It is.
Hey, there's a question.
Empirically impossible, and it only exists for us to argue and bitch about, which is fun. Don't get me wrong.
What should we, Molly?
Yes.
Get rid of gender in these award shows? Should just be like best actor in X, Y, and Z. And then just take out male versus female, because now you have non-binary folks. You got a whole range of folks doing.
Yeah, like, Emma Darcy is kind of forcing this question this year. She was the older Rhaenyra Targaryen from,
and she's non-binary. What category was she in? She was in Best Actress?
They were nominated for Best Actress, but ideally it would just be a non-specific because, you know, they don't identify with specifically with one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, then I guess the idea is like then you wouldn't have as many. You'd have more.
You could just have more nominees. Yeah, you could say 10 acting nominees, but
fewer people have an opportunity to win. But maybe you start to slice and dice like best actor in a drama, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of make sense, right? It is sort of anachronistic to be like even we have the lady role and the male role, and sometimes like you would have a best actor slate that's just a bunch of like mediocre performances, while meanwhile you have like the best actress slate and it's like transcendent, and so like some dud dude wins but some, you know, amazing lady gets left out. So like I think mixing it just to say best empirically, I mean, I'm somebody who won a women's journalism award, and I was like, next year I want to win the one that everybody can win, right? Like I want to beat everyone. Right. I don't only want to beat women.
It's like acting, journalism. These are not things that there's any logic to dividing them by gender. It's not like male acting is different from female acting. It's exactly the same.
I would want to beat everybody.
In basketball or MMA fighting, you could make a physiological, I'm sure controversial as well for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm making that argument.
I don't want to bring the discussion up. But, you know, there might be a muscle mass or a height issue that there are activities where it makes some sense to differentiate by gender, but acting is not one of them.
Same thing with tennis, right? It's sort of silly that the men play 5 and the women play 3. Like they could obviously go 5 rounds. So yeah, yes, I'm in favor. Dump it. Just give. If you are the best actor in the world, get to be the best. Period. I like that. Get to beat everybody.
I also like that they have at the Golden Globes, like the best actor in, I guess, comedy and musicals, one group, and a drama is another.
They do slice and dice. I kind of like that too.
You know, it inevitably every year leads to these arguments about which movies are considered in which, you know, like, oh, Banshees of Inisherin, how come that gets to count as a comedy because it's so dark? Or, you know, like, so you always get, because there's a lot of stuff that kind of lives on that dividing line.
Right.
So it's not perfect either, but I think
award shows will always be stupid.
Right. I think that makes more sense to me than doing it by gender. I also think the other benefit of dropping gender is we'd finally get to see all these matchups we've never, like, what if De Niro and Meryl Streep had great performances in 1 year? They never get to go up against each other in an acting contest, but who wouldn't want to see who wins out, you know? Like, I think all these matchups we've never gotten a chance to play out before.
They should have a best sci-fi. I feel like since that's all of our favorite genres, I think genre films, I just finished Tarantino's book, by the way, where he talks about movies, and it was pretty great. He's a very fearless guy. That's what I determined. He really tackles a lot of subjects that, you know, are kind of third rails of, you know, like we're sort of talking here, gender, race, whatever, in film and portrayals. And I'm surprised the book has not been aggregated a bit with choice moments where he talks about things.
I think it's the same thing Dylan is getting away with in his book. I'm reading Bob Dylan's book about songwriting right now, and it's the same thing. Where every once in a while, Dylan will say something and be like, people aren't upset at Bob Dylan for saying that. But I think it's that if you're reading that book, you're a Bob Dylan fan. You want to hear what Bob thinks. You're not going to get offended. The people who would be upset, they don't care enough to read Bob or Quentin's book and find out what they have to say.
That's interesting. So if you have a hot take, write a book. And then they won't aggregate you like they do on a podcast.
Yeah, write a book that's for your faithful fans, and then don't do what Matthew Perry did and go repeat all the most divisive anecdotes on podcasts so people can get mad at you.
Yeah, you know, this is another interesting issue around art and over time, which I guess comes up in Tar, but I was listening to some Bob Dylan and some Dire Straits with my daughter. She's really into classic rock, and we're Billy Joel, Elton John. We're just going through the, you know, Bruce Springsteen. How did
that happen? She just got independently into Billy Joel, really? Wow.
No, I just put on a song or two, and she liked it, and she likes the lyrics. And, you know, there's a famous Mark Knopfler song, a Dire Straits song, I Want My MTV. And it has a slur in it.
It's called Money for Nothing.
Money for Nothing, yes. And it has a slur in it, the F word. But it's not Mark
the slur
Knopfler
for gay people, not F-U-C, not the F-bomb.
It's not
the bad word for gay people.
Right.
Yes,
right.
And you know the song now has been redubbed, I guess. But he's talking about a racist person using the term like a
right.
And then
he's not speaking in Mark Knopfler's voice; he's narrating. Yeah,
he's narrating. And then there's another song by Bob Dylan, Hurricane. You know, I was going through.
It's got the
protest and justice songs because my daughter has a sense of justice and protest. And in this song, they're again quoting another person, you know, a law enforcement official. You know, Dylan actually says the N-word in the song.
Yeah.
And so this is a very like high level discussion of like storytelling and using words and storytelling that this generation is like, well, that's never okay. And then, okay, but is it okay? And you know, Tarantino kind of gets into that a little bit in his book and stuff like that. It's really interesting with art, you know, and time, which I guess Tar gets into with Bob.
It's fascinating too with Tarantino because I think he gets a little bit of leeway. He gets brownie points because he was so instrumental in the 90s in introducing a lot of these like blaxploitation movies would not be where they are today in terms of cultural awareness without, you know, Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown. And I think that, so I think people are like, okay, we'll give him, he gets 5 extra inches to play around with than another white guy might who is coming in just off the street just because Tarantino has this storied history with black cinema.
Yeah. Django Unchained and.
Yeah. You know, I mean, he's an expert and he's an aficionado and even people in that world kind of recognize that like this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. The book's fascinating. Just talking about the 70s exploitation films and just how even back then, some of these films were really challenging audiences. Also, it's fascinating. A lot of the films taking place in San Francisco. San Francisco seemed to be a culturally super relevant zeitgeist of a movie location for whatever reason.
Dirty Harry.
That comes up a bunch.
Of course, yeah. The Laughing Policeman, too, I think, is San Francisco, right? I think Walter Matthau is a San Francisco cop in that one.
Yeah. This is
because there's a famous trolley car scene, so it has to be.
The Quentin Tarantino book, I highly recommend. if you're into cinema, and it's really, cinema speculation.
Right.
A book by Tarantino.
Dylan's
there
is
was
called The
something in
Philosophy of Modern Song. That's the Dylan book.
I am going to read that next.
Oh, it's great. He takes it's essays, and he takes a song. So like Blue Suede Shoes is one of the essays, and he just writes an essay about here's why I love this song. Here's why this song matters. Here's interesting things about the writing.
Not his songs, just songs.
No, not his songs, like other people's songs. But it's mostly 50s and 60s, like the stuff he grew up listening to. I think Elvis Costello's Peace, Love, and Understanding is the most contemporary song.
So it's not Tar on Tar. It is Dylan on
it's
other.
Not tar. It's not Tar on Tar.
Tar by Tar.
Yeah, it's Dylan on a bunch of, like, mostly the music he was listening to when he was sort of coming up and defining his sound. It's like a lot of Little Richard and like a lot of 50s, 60s artists.
You know, I've been on a health kick over the past year, and part of that health kick is the greatest fitness app in the world, Fitbod. And if you're listening to me right now, you probably care about optimization, right? Saving time, doing things perfectly, and data-driven solutions. You know what? Fitness hasn't had these things until Fitbod. Fitbod is a data-driven workout app. It blends machine learning with exercise science. They create a custom dynamic program for you based on your fitness goals, based on your experience, and think about this, your available equipment, right? Maybe you're in a hotel, maybe you're at an Airbnb, maybe you're at a blue ground, and you need to use the equipment you have. They're going to maximize your fitness gains by varying the intensity and the volume between sessions as well. And they make these beautiful visualizations of your body and how utilized your muscles are. So let's check out this demo. Let's say I want to get a 30-minute workout in, and I want to work on my chest, triceps, and my abs, but I'm staying at some, rental, and there's no equipment. Well, they'll create a perfectly optimized workout based on those parameters. Let's say I'm in another, hotel, and they got a bunch of kettlebells. Well, you go to another location and you got those pulley machines. They're going to make a perfect workout for you. It's amazing. It is one of the most beautiful apps ever made. They get featured by Apple all the time. Fitbod takes the guesswork out of fitness. Just open the app and start making progress. Get 25% off your Fitbod subscription or try out the app for free when you sign up now at fitbod.me/twist. That's fitbod.me/twist for 25% off. Interestingly, there was this New Yorker story. I didn't have a chance to read it, but I read the summary of it. We talked about it on our
chat,
on our group chat. Somebody want to unpack this for us?
I'll give the little. I'll give the little
the summary. Give us the inside. It's really about. I guess we should say it's about Netflix.
Yes,
and Netflix's strategy and shifting strategy and hoped for strategies, right?
Yeah, and it's focused on Beja Bajaria. I'm going to look up her title. Who is Bella. Like she basically Bella. She oversees she basically like the head of content, if you think of it, like head of development. She's overseeing a lot of their what's Netflix licensing, what's Netflix making. She's kind of sitting on top of that process. And what I was going to say is in 2020. The big story was the woman who had that job was named Cindy Holland, and she was a longtime Hollywood development executive who she was the one who helped launch Netflix as a creator of big studio style Hollywood content, House of Cards and Orange is the New Black. And she would have been spearheading that generation. And then there was a little bit of a power struggle between Bella Bajaria, who was the international version of Cindy Holland. So she was working on European acquisitions, Asian markets, and Cindy Holland, who was running things in the US. And then eventually Cindy Holland was let go and Bella Bajaria moved it or retired. I don't think she was. They worded it like she stepped down or resigned. And then this woman took over that job. And what I think is fascinating is it's a really 180 strategic difference between these two approaches. Cindy Holland was a very old school Hollywood media development executive kind of approach where if you think of HBO, FX, what the high end premium content creators are doing, which is working very close, finding the top people who just create the best shows, working closely with them, developing shows individually, spending a long time on the process of bringing them together. Exactly like what HBO is doing with all the Game of Thrones series. They're taking years. They're only going to bring one out when it's absolutely ready. And Bella Bajaria's approach is a much more just constantly moving through, like tons of stuff constantly in development. She's checking in on everybody a little bit as they go, but it's more like kind of managing the flow of everything, licensing tons of stuff, keeping an eye on the international markets and looking for whatever's popping. And she's focusing a lot less on directly overseeing every piece of content that gets made.
Right. I mean, what this article talks about too is this, which we've talked about actually. Like, I think I have used the phrase trashy populist, populist trash, right? Like, just put everything out there. And this long New Yorker piece, which is actually really well summarized by a really good Twitter follow, Trung Fan, points out what critics have called the like Walmartification. But what she says is that, she thinks the ideal show is like a gourmet cheeseburger where it's both premium and commercial at the same time. And I think Wednesday, the goal is to replace all television.
And I think when you look at stuff Netflix comes out with like Wednesday, to me, that's the exact premium cheeseburger model. Like that's exactly what they're talking about. Prestige director and Tim Burton, looks great, big stars. It's everything, it's got a lot to market. It's Addams Family. It's a famous IP, but it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It is like a CW, Riverdale, Buffy the Vampire Slayer type show that is following that formula very closely. And like not breaking any real new ground. It's just a satisfying, crowd pleasing, get Tim Burton in there and make it look Tim Burton-y, and it worked.
So, smashed burger, American cheese because it melts better, sesame seeds on the bun.
Yeah, it's a cheeseburger, bun, but it's a good cheeseburger. This is how you make a cheeseburger.
Ketchup leather. Instead of like just trashy ketchup,
Exactly.
But what do we think about this? I mean, replace all television, right? That the strategy today is to function as, quote, equal parts HBO and FX and AMC and Lifetime and Bravo and E and Comedy Central. Now, if a founder came to me and said, I'm going to do all this stuff, I'd be like, no, you're not. Like, what do we think about this kind of approach to, I'm going to try to replace all television. We're just going to try to eat the world. We don't need to focus. We just need to hoover up content, which, as you know, I think is a financial black hole of a strategy. But also, do you need to focus?
I mean, the old idea was that networks needed a brand. So like HBO can't get you to subscribe unless there's a brand. And we know what that brand is. The Wire, Sopranos, like that they defined what they were. I think she might be right, though. I don't know if Netflix needs a brand. Netflix just needs to be, there's always something on Netflix when you're ready to pull up Netflix.
Bingo. Netflix is a 25-year-old company. Let's just pause for a second.
Wow.
It was founded in 97. People forget the envelope days. And just exactly how old this company is.
I used to get the envelopes in college, folks.
Yeah. I was they had an unlisted 9 DVD plan. And when I was in my youth, I had a DVD reader attached to my PC, and I had 2 PCs in my office, and I would get them and I would rip them to my hard drive because I wanted to be able to watch them myself. This is when it was okay to rip a DVD, I guess. Yeah. And I would just get the 9. I'd rip them all to my hard drive, and I kept like 100 of them at any given time. My hard drive would fill up, and then I'd watch them at my leisure and then delete them. Putting all that aside, piracy, what eventually became known as piracy.
There's not a statute of limitations on that, right? Or
25 years old, I think it's pretty good, yeah. I'm sorry, a friend of mine was doing that, not me.
There you go.
And that was how Netflix beat Blockbuster, was no late fees. You could keep those little red envelopes as long as you wanted, and you wouldn't get hit with late fees. And people were like, well, why would I go to Blockbuster? This has come to me in the mail, and that's it.
So this is just a classic, what got you here will not get you there. What got them to where they were was having a large group of subscribers. That was phase 1, right? All those people got the envelopes. Then phase 2 was they became very good at licensing content, right? Then phase 3 was making their own IP. So they went from, competing against Blockbuster, like we're talking about. Then they went to licensing like HBO would license movies. They didn't make their own movies all that often.
It was pretty close. Like once they launched their own streaming platform, Lillehammer was pretty hot on that was soon. And that was an acquisition. That was a European produced show that they came in and grab. But right after that was when you got House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, and they started to come out with some of their own stuff.
And they said, hey, let's follow that HBO. Let's be premium. We only have a certain number of bullets to fire, so of course we're going to be thoughtful. And then
House of Cards at the time was a huge movie star in the lead, which never happened on TV. David Fincher directed those first few episodes. People forget that. Yeah. It's very high profile.
When you're making a small number of shots, they're going to be sniper shots. Well, then you get to, 200 million people on a service around the world. And, it's got to be a factory by definition. And if you're not going to unsubscribe, what's a way to get people to not unsubscribe? Either you're HBO and you're the high end and people can't live without your next elite piece of content, or you're going to just have enough in there that people are like, you know what, there's some Sebastian, Chappelle comedy is going to come up, some Squid Game out of left field, Ozark. There's something is going to hook me. And that's what gets you to point A to B to C to D in business is different. If you look at Microsoft now, when they acquire a company, they say it outright, like this thing's got to have like $1 billion in earnings potential. If it can't throw off $1 billion in earnings, not just even top line, well, we can't buy it. It's a waste of our time. And that's really where it's obvious they've gotten to.
The one more thing I would say is on it. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just feel like 100% all of that is true, but this is a race to zero. Like let's just say what got you, Macs didn't get you all the way there, so you had to invent iPhones. Fine. That's a high margin product. Content is the most expensive business you can be in. You're just throwing money. So the idea of, okay, well, we'll get people there by always having something on means you're always creating content, and your subscriber margins have to, maybe the advertising, right? Like maybe launching the ad supported model is the only way you get those margins up. But I just wonder, like, it's really easy to build a business on the back of someone else's content, but making your own is like an endless black hole.
I think that's one of the big things this whole shift in strategy is addressing is they can't constantly churn out premium, expensive content. They've got to limit that to like the ones that are going to hit big out of the year, your Wednesdays, The Crown, Squid Game. But unlike a TV network where every piece of content has to kind of live or die on its own, you've got to sell sponsors on this show. And if you can't sell sponsors on this show, they'll pick the next show. Netflix can kind of get away with like, people don't really like Ginny and Georgia. Poorly reviewed, not a big hyped show, but it always ends up on the Netflix top 10 chart. People will watch it if it's thrown up in front of them. And I think that's what Netflix is getting better at doing, is those shows that they can toss off for not as much money. They're more the equivalent of a basic cable show than an HBO show, but they can still, you'll watch Kaleidoscope just because it's on. It doesn't need to be the biggest hype thing of the year. And I think they might be able to eventually hit that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, though, that this thing makes a lot of money. $8 billion a quarter. $32 billion a year. Still growing. And, they kind of started hitting a little bit of a ceiling there in some markets, even some decline in the US, et cetera. People with a little austerity measures maybe. But now that they're adding that advertising tier, and who knows, I think, they might even have a free tier at some point for some of the old archive. My prediction would be this archive gets bigger and bigger. If you're a premium subscriber, you're going to get everything. But if you're like, there's no reason Ozark, in year 10 in the archive, or Orange is the New Black, after the series has wrapped, could not be 100% 20 minutes of advertising supported. And there could be a free tier eventually. So this thing is going to get to 1 billion users, I believe, maybe 500 million free, 500 million paid, and or subsidized, right? $32 billion buys a hell of a lot of content a year. That archive builds up. And now my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, Lon, is because there might not be as many competitors competing, because we hit that peak television, and we see Warner Brothers cutting, HBO cutting. Each show is going to cost less. They're going to tighten the belts there. There'll be less buyers. And so maybe they hit some efficiencies in content.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's for sure coming. We were in an era of absolutely unprecedented, unsustainable growth in terms of how many shows and films were just raw being produced per year. And like that was Ben Affleck had that quote where it's like, they're just making too many things. You can't possibly make them all good. There's just not enough people to manage them. And so I think, now that that's dipping, all sorts of savings are going to come in. It's less competitive for talent. It's less competitive for places to produce your show and sets and your crew and camera ops, everybody, everything, the price comes down on everything because there's fewer people trying to buy everybody up and scoop everybody's time up years in advance for their production slates. And so, as all of that slows down, there will be opportunities for all of these streamers to save. And then I feel like Peacock, there's not going to be a Peacock much longer. I feel like they already have sort of figured out they can't, even if the shows are really good, they can't get a wide enough audience on Peacock. So they're starting to move shows off. Like Girls 5 Eva, which was on Peacock for 2 seasons, is going to go to Netflix for season 3 because it's a hit and they can't get enough people on Peacock to see it. Same with Chucky. And so, I feel like that's going to be the next one to drop, I think.
All right. Well, if Netflix is rabid capitalists who don't care about winning awards anymore, or maybe like some awards just to keep the brand name up. Let's talk about awards. Other people are going hard. What I, will fully acknowledge that this is one of those years where I've seen nothing, which is most years, but at least I've seen Tar. So I'm ready. If that happens.
Of the best pictures, you've only seen one. Yeah. I've seen.
And every year I'm like, I'm
Top Gun.
definitely going to watch these.
Is that
up
for best picture?
Well, we don't know. Oscar nominations aren't out yet, but it's looking good. And Joseph Kosinski just nabbed a DGA nomination for director, so he remains in the mix as well. Okay. I'd say it's fairly likely. How
come they're nowhere in the Vegas Insider odds, which is weird?
Really? I mean, there was talk early on of, is Tom Cruise possible in the Best Actor category? I don't think that's going to happen. But Kosinski as director in the film, I think is very possible.
Why not? Why wouldn't Tom Cruise get a?
There's the personal stuff that it's always a little hinky to nominate Cruise for things because of the Scientology connection. Some people are a little creeped out by him. That's why he's seen as a bit of a divisive figure. So that's one. The other one is that movie and that performance is seen as it's him doing Tom Cruise. And I don't agree with this. I think he's a great actor and it's a terrific performance. But
I kind of can't believe that Tom Cruise can't get nominated for Scientology, but you guys can sit here and talk about Bob Dylan and Quentin Tarantino, who are both just, credible women haters. And Uma Thurman is Quentin tried to kill me and whatever.
Bob Dylan's
that's fine.
Yeah,
Bob Dylan was accused of raping a 12-year-old.
What?
I mean, it's just I'm just saying the shifting standards, those were dropped. I'm just saying the shifting standards here are astonishing. But Tom Cruise is too creepy. Okay. I'm sorry.
I love Tom Cruise.
Catch me up on who's too creepy.
I'm not saying this about me. I would nominate Tom Cruise for everything. I'm a big fan.
I'm not yelling at you guys. I'm yelling at the world.
I do think the
I was just wait a second. I do think
the Scientology connection.
Bob Dylan accusations.
It's part of his public persona, and I don't think you can't extract it. It's always there. I mean, that was the big news from the Golden Globes was Jared Carmichael. He wasn't even there, and Jared Carmichael made a Scientology joke. He brought on two actors from Top Gun, and he brought out the 3 Golden Globes that Tom Cruise returned during the controversy, and he said maybe we should exchange these for Shelley Miscavige, the missing wife of the president of Scientology. So Cruise wasn't even in the building, and they were making Scientology jokes about it.
Interesting. Anyway, what are we thinking? But
I don't disagree. Brad Pitt was there in the audience, who Angelina Jolie has recently accused of battering her, and people were like, Margot Robbie was toasting him.
I mean, it's just it honestly, it's the shifting okay and not okay, and this is fine and this is not fine. It's just you can't even keep track. However, I will fundamentally say, I'm not sure that the acting in Top Gun is what we were there for. I'm not, I wouldn't say Maverick.
I agree. I think he's great. I think Powell's great. I thought Val Kilmer was very good. Let's see.
What is great acting? Does it have to be?
They're acting against 8 G's of pressure. They're really in fighter jets doing tricks and acting at the same time. That adds a level of difficulty.
All right. Fair. Okay, cool. If Tom Cruise doesn't get nominated, I'm going
to... on the 4th of July, right?
I mean,
he totally
Tom Cruise
was. I just mean
actor.
That... I'm only talking about Tom Cruise in that role. I think he is an awesome Maverick.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tom
Is
Cruise
that
would
the
great in
role
a
we're
bunch
really
of
going to
it.
like,
Magnolia, Jerry Maguire.
Exactly. That's
Magnolia
all. If you got
underrated,
nominated for Magnolia and Jerry Maguire, I'm there. Like, I'm just saying, in the case of Maverick specifically, I wanted to win lots of things, but I'm not sure I'd
really
go like.
Good in that movie. I don't know. I do. I think that we tend
I'll watch it for the fifth time tonight, and then I'll decide.
She'll let us know.
I
The
think
other
performances.
4 nominees she hasn't seen, but she will have seen Maverick 5 times.
Yeah. I think performances where the actors really lean into their personas tend to get overlooked. We assume that that's easy. They can do that in their sleep, but it's not.
Whereas something like Brendan Fraser in The Whale, which I haven't seen, I'm waiting to hit streaming.
Like a huge departure for him,
so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
huge departure.
Yeah, huge. Yes, he's an enormous departure.
I see what you did there.
Yes, an enormous.
See what you did there.
Or even like Jamie Lee Curtis in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is like, I mean, she's fine, but I think that it seems like great acting because she looks so different. It doesn't seem like Jamie Lee Curtis. She's playing dowdy, frumpy, and so we're like, that's unrecognizable. And so that feels like more acting, but I don't know if what she's doing is any more impressive than what Tom Cruise is doing.
Is there like
Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder is funny and different and more notable to some people, but Tom Cruise in Maverick, I think, is a killer performance. There's
that part right before he pushes above Mach 10. You know, he's at Mach 10, he's hit it, and then he's like, could we do 10.1? And he like raises his eyebrow a little, and it's very subtle. And you got to remember, he's in a jet. Like, he's making that acting choice as he's in a jet going like Mach 7 or something.
I never would have guessed that I would trigger an impassioned defense of Tom Cruise's acting, but I'm happy. I'm happy with this outcome. This is an outstanding outcome.
Best actress odds, Cate Blanchett, plus 175. These are provided by DraftKings. Plus 175. So you put $100 down, you win 175. So that means she is the odds-on favorite. Michelle, is it Yeoh?
I believe it's Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. For, as you're saying, like the career, maybe this performance is amazing. She's 60 years old.
She just won the Golden Globe.
She just won the Golden Globe.
Yeah.
This was plus 700 before that, I think. That maybe, I kind of like the Michelle bet at plus 700. Because when you're making these bets, it's not just who you think's going to win. I think Kate's going to win, but it only pays off 175. Michelle for Everything All at Once plus 700 feels like a better bet.
It's a big movie. It's a crowd favorite. She's a legend, an icon from not just and like
Oscar's
not even
so white.
Not right. It's not just from this country, but she's got huge fans in China and Asia. Like I feel like it would be there's a lot of reasons to give it to her, and it's a great performance. She's very good.
Also, things I love about Michelle Yeoh include Everything, and also the fact that she's like up for an Oscar for this movie, and she's in The Witcher: Blood Origin.
Right.
Like she's like, I do what I want.
It's cool that she's also capable of just like doing a crazy martial arts sequence just as effectively as being like the scary mom from Crazy Rich Asians. Like she can do both.
She is versatile.
Very versatile.
When is the Oscars, or when? When do the
Oscars are?
Well, the Oscars are like in March.
Not
usually.
for another like month or so. We'll get the Oscar nominations pretty soon, though, within a week or two, I think.
All right, well, we should do a little Oscar pool. Put $100 in and get everybody to do a little pool here.
It's a tough year to call. There's a bunch of big Elvis and Banshees of Inisherin, and there's a bunch of movies kind of duking it out for supremacy right now. So it's an interesting year.
And Spielberg always, when you have Spielberg in the running, a Spielberg film, it's
up for that DGA award. He won the Golden Globe, so making a late run at it, Steve. I didn't think enough people saw that film. 5. Well, that's James Mangold is taking over. This is the first one Steve's not going to direct.
I know, but I'm still excited for Indiana Jones 5.
Yeah, I'm excited, of course.
You saw the short rounds.
Yes, of course. And he's the odds-on. At this point, he's taken all the major awards. So he's definitely your odds-on favorite for supporting actor if you're an Oscar watcher, by the way.
Yeah. So what if there's one movie in advance of the Oscars themselves and the nominations that I have to watch? I mean, it sounds like clearly Everything Everywhere All at Once I definitely need to watch.
You got to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Is there another one that I should really make sure?
You didn't see Banshees of Inisherin yet with Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson? That's on HBO Max now, and that's definitely going to win one or two big things. So you'll like
Banshees,
screenplay,
blah, blah, blah.
Farrell's a possible. Gleason's going to be up for supporting actor.
What kind of rock do I live under? I've never even heard any of these titles. And we do this
that's
every
Martin
week.
McDonough, who did In Bruges. This is like an In Bruges reunion because Farrell and Gleason were both in that, and it's the same writer-director. But he also did a few years ago, he did 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri with Frances McDormand. That's the same.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll check.
I want to see the Banshees.
It's good. It's very like darkly funny, but very funny.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about it, so I'm excited to see it. All right, well
great.
done, Lon. We'll see you next week. Well, thanks for catching us up on all things streaming.
Of course.
Bye-bye.